today's guest, I've got my sister, who is also a youth worker, Rae-Anne Preece. Hello, Rae-Anne.
Hiya.
Thank you for joining me on my podcast. So I think it's fair to say that there has been an increase in youth on youth violence, not just in Birmingham, but widespread across the UK. How have you found being a youth worker out on outreach? You being a youth worker, how has it helped the youth on the streets?
Well, I'd say that it certainly helped because obviously a lot of the youth clubs have closed down, a lot of youth provision are not able to run because of COVID regulations. Up until the last lockdown, I think we was allowed up to 15. But I know a lot of provision was saying that there had to be in certain bubbles, which become a bit of a problem for me because obviously they come from different schools and stuff like that. So it was really, really hard to regulate from a youth worker's perspective, especially with the hard to reach kids. I find that they was harder to facilitate, obviously because they've got complex needs and stuff like that. A couple of more young people struggled to keep to the rules before lockdown. So they was just, and to be honest with you, a lot of professionals was just discombobulated with regulations and risk assessments. And
when lockdown first happened, was they still allowing you to go out onto the streets, or was they trying to find an alternative way that you can engage with them?
Well, initially it just went into lockdown, and I think the country just went into shock. And for about 2 weeks we wasn't out on the streets, but we was getting reports, anti-social reports and that we get given from community safety perspective. We get given reports and stuff that were saying that young people are still out on the street. So we got in touch with the local police and asked them, you know, would we be able to get given key worker status to go out onto the streets and deliver outreach? And they couldn't have been happier, to be honest.
For you to go out there.
Yeah, they was like, yeah, please do. They just even says, listen, use this email as proof if you are to get stopped by the police and asking what you're doing out on the streets. But obviously we've got identity anyway, like we're quite well known, we've got our jumpers and stuff that you know, explain who we are. They was more than happy. They was more than happy to have us out on the streets and trying to
And just for the sake of the viewers, because I already know everything anyway, where is it that you do youth work and how did you get into it?
So I went for the job. It is in Bromsgrove because it was a JNC role. And I don't know whether you know that JNC, there's not many organisations that value the JNC.
Oh, okay.
So that is what attracted me to it, because it's a professional youth worker role. It is over in Bromsgrove, and being a Christian, it suited me because it was with the Church of England.
Okay, yeah.
We cover Bromsgrove. They've now run it across Redditch as well. Bromsgrove Town Centre. That's where I mainly do my outreach.
Do you find that during sort of COVID, it's sort of increased youth violence? Have they had more sort of rein to go out onto the streets because there's not as many people out there?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say, again, pre-COVID, there was nothing for them to do. Now they're realising that obviously shops are shut and stuff like that. Like a lot of the young people that I engage with will go out to, they'll get the train. Yeah. Bromsgrove is not, it's not really an area where young people have got much to do. You know, there's probably one ice skating rink that's open at the end of the year from like November through to January, you know what I mean? So a lot of the young people get on trains and get trains to Birmingham, Redditch, Worcestershire, which is a big problem for county lines. Yeah. It's a lot harder to monitor because obviously a lot of the young people are getting on trains and stuff anyway with their friends and going to other counties and stuff, obviously it's just for things to do, like pictures, town centres and stuff. So obviously when we went into lockdown in town centres and that closed down, and obviously they had nowhere to go on the trains because obviously everywhere's in lockdown. So we was finding that was more and more congregating in alleys. Okay. There is a knife crime problem there in Bromsgrove. And obviously lockdown is heightened mental health. Mental health, cannabis use has gone through the roof. It's like a culture amongst young people.
And do you think, it's a massive rabbit hole to get into why are young people the way they are and why they are on the streets doing what they're doing? But can you agree that there's not enough help out there and there's a lot of stigma on young people, for hanging around streets? I think I've seen a group on Facebook that was moaning about kids in the park and people was commenting saying, well, what do you want them to do? Like, they're in a park, and they're like, well, it's during lockdown, well, what do you want them to do? Just sit in the house all day and play Xbox, or, you know, which still equally isn't good for the mental health. So do you think that there's a massive stigma on youth, but there's also no help for youth either? It's sort of like with this, everybody slags them off, but no one wants to help them as well at the same point.
Yeah, young people are definitely demonised by the older generation, by people who don't understand their culture and their way of life. You know, they only have to wear a hoodie and they're seen as thugs. You know, do you know what I mean? So that was already dehumanised before lockdown. Now, like, there is people complaining. I see it myself as well. People complaining. Oh, there's kids in the park, they're doing this, they're doing that, it's only for age up to 10. But nobody wants to start putting funding into youth provision for them. Do you know what I mean? So it's all right, you know, there's an issue over there at the moment where young people are congregating in Asda town store.
On the car park?
Yeah, multi-storey.
It's like underground car park.
There's underground and there's a roof to it, which can be dangerous.
Yeah, of
Obviously,
course.
they've got trolleys, they've got skateboards, they've got bikes, so they're whizzing all round.
They have no fear of either, do they? Like, I'm dangling off the edge of the roof.
You know, it's things that we would have done ourselves as kids, do you know what I mean? But obviously, there's a lot of meetings going on now as to what do we do to stop this from happening. You know, from a youth worker's perspective, all I can do is advise them, like, you know, about the health and safety of it. But it's an issue when all they've got is to go. It's like a meeting point for them. As the car park. You know, so it's all about professionals getting around the table and speaking about, you know, where can we disperse them to? How can we stop this from happening? How about we find a youth club that...
For them to do.
Yeah. And there is a youth club there. There's a youth hub, should I say. But it's too small, and it's definitely done a massive disservice at the moment because of COVID regulations, and you're only allowed... Well, I think you're allowed up to groups of 15. I think that was...
But then if you've got to go out and handpick which 15 want to go in there, and it's not fair on the rest of them. Thinking, well, why didn't I get picked for them?
Massive issue, yeah, it is.
There's more than 15 youth that need the services of the youth hub, so you can't just go and handpick 15, because what you've got to do for 15, you've got to do for more, haven't you?
Yeah, of course, yeah. And then you've got favoritism and stuff like that, which I know one of my colleagues over there who runs the youth hub, she's found it massively difficult because hers was like a drop-in centre. Okay. So young people was dropping in there, you know, just to have some noodles and, you know, just sit and have a chat. Now, obviously, because the kitchens are closed, they can't have food, they can't even just drop in there, and she's having to turn young people away. You know, that is not youth work. We engage. We want to be inclusive. You know, we want to be as inclusive as possible and get as many numbers as we can to engage. So it has been a massive problem that these provisions just aren't there.
Do you find that they engage with youth workers, like particular youth workers? Obviously, you can relate to them because of your own background and where you come from, but say, for example, if a textbook learner that would just to go in there, do you think they'd engage with them as much as they would with someone that's got lived experience?
I think if you've got the lived experience, it helps.
Yeah.
Empathy. You can explain to them that you've been through these sort of things. But I wouldn't say that somebody who hasn't got lived experience and has got a textbook wouldn't be, who is a textbook learner, it's just as good, because it's just the ability to listen and understand. Do you know what I mean? That's all that I find that a lot of these young people are after, is just somebody who's neutral. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Somebody who's not going to judge them, somebody who, you know, who can help guide them. I mean, my core young group that I've took to music studio and that they phone me whenever. Do you know what I mean? So I've got a really good relationship with them. They'll phone me, you know, oh, right, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Or how do I do this? And that.
So youth work doesn't have any hours, does it? It's just around.
No, it's not a 9 to 5, unfortunately. No, I thought maybe I'd have been lucky there, but no. Young people's needs around the clock. Do you know what I mean?
Just stop at 5 o'clock and all of a sudden everything's okay with them.
I've had calls at 12 o'clock on the night and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
And have you had to sort of implement them boundaries with them and say, look, as much as I still want to help you, I can't be helping you to cook eggs at 12 o'clock on the night, sort of thing. You know, you can't just be phoning me for anything.
You've got to have boundaries with young people, because they have a tendency to obviously
overstep the mark and just keep nosing you, so to speak.
Yeah.
So going back to the music studios, you sort of do music mentoring with them, don't you, along with Beans, your friend?
Yeah.
How do you find they take to that?
Oh, they love it. Like, we've received funding for it to continue up until March. We're hoping to keep continuing it. I've seen a massive change in some of them. I mean, one of the young people that I was working with was... he's always been engaged all the way through. However, he's had other issues that have been ongoing outside of the music workshop. And these music workshops have led him to have focus, drive, a bit more commitment. Do you know what I mean? Even when he's there, to be honest with you, you know, he smokes cannabis, but even when he comes there, he doesn't. So we're hoping that
it can keep him a clear head, it can be consistent.
Yeah.
So he likes to keep a clear head.
Yeah.
So even at a young age, he's still able to have that self-awareness that I need to stop smoking, I don't want to smoke, I need to have a clear head and remain motivated, so to speak.
Well, it's really good because he mentors the other young people and tells them, like, listen.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, it's really good, yeah. He mentors the other young people, like, oh, if you do this, this will make your song better, or try and do this, and do you know what I mean? But then he also tells them about, like, you know, you need to stop coming here high, intoxicated and stuff like that.
How old is he?
He's 17.
Wow, so he's still very, very wise at his age.
Yeah. And he notices the difference of when he makes music. When he makes music, obviously when he's intoxicated, it's different to when he's not. Do you know what I mean?
And he's dedicated to his passion, obviously he takes it seriously.
Yeah.
It's his art, isn't it? So he doesn't necessarily want to...
Well, it's built his confidence, it's built belief in himself, you know, it's give him that sense of direction about where he can go in life and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? He knows that there's more to life than living on the streets and stuff. Yeah. And you know, he comes from a good family and stuff, so it's not like he's about that street life. Unfortunately, it's too glamorised nowadays. Yeah. You know, you can come from an affluent background with a mum and a dad, a nuclear family, and I've seen it, and kids still kind of steer towards that gang culture, drill music.
I think that's fair to say. A lot of that probably is to do with the music, I think. It could be peer pressuring and the people that you're around, but when you're listening to artists talking about, you know, drugs and guns and doing this and doing that, after so long, you programmed. Yeah, you programs you, doesn't it?
Yeah, and this is one thing that we speak to our young people about. Me and Beans have always been very clear, like, they can't rap about drugs, guns, be quite respectful to girls, you know. And we have these workshops, so it's not just music that we talk about. We do have critical dialogues. We get them to critically think and have a dialogue about some of the words and the terminology that they're using. Like, what does this mean? Do you know what I mean? What does this mean to you? I had a really good workshop the other week when they was talking about, they was rapping about loyalty, you know, and how friends and that are disloyal and stuff like that. So we had a conversation about loyalty and what it actually means to them. Do you know what I mean? And like a lot of young people, like I did myself when I was a young person, like, you envision your friends to be like, they're like your family. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
You don't understand the conception of loyalty when you're young, do you really?
No. So we have a lot of conversations around the words that they're using and stuff like that, which is it's very educational, to be honest with you. Other than, so it's got more of a focus. It's not just about music. It is about learning.
You think you're talking about sort of the linguistics of what they're talking about, aren't you?
Yeah.
To take away the music programme and what you do, what would they be doing? What help would they have taking out the funding for the music, you know, for the music programmes? What would they be doing, do you think? They'd still just be on the streets smoking cannabis. So it leads to the point that there's not enough of these provisions about, there's not enough funding, there's not enough put into these young people.
No. I mean, up there at Bromsgrove, there is a youth hub there already, and there is young people that engage with it. However, the young people that I engage with are a completely different demographic. So then, from my experience, what I found in past experience, you will get certain parents of the young people who are engaged that will feel a certain way about other kids that are going to the youth workshops that aren't as engaged, or they might be seen as disaffected, or from a disaffected background, and, you know, I don't want my kid hanging around with that. How come it's not being monitored and stuff? But at the end of the day, youth work is inclusive. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It should be inclusive. These spaces should be inclusive, and they are. I mean, the hub definitely is an inclusive space. It's just that the young people that I engage with don't feel that there is anything to meet their needs there.
So what's in the hub? Is it just like table tennis and just things like that?
No, it's more like arts and crafts. There's an Xbox in there and stuff like that. Like I said, the buildings, from my opinion, I hope they don't watch this. From my opinion, it's too small.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. It's a fair enough opinion.
The building's too small for the amount of young people that you've got. I mean, the Charford estate and stuff has got the majority of young people in Bromsgrove housed on that one estate. Yeah. And then you've got five. You've got, so, you know, because a lot of people probably think, oh, you know, I work in Bromsgrove. Bromsgrove's an affluent area and that. But actually, some of the areas in Bromsgrove come up like on the top 5th for the depravity on the IMD index. Wow. And they don't get funding because they're seen to be from an affluent area. Do you know what I mean?
So that's quite a well-to-do area as well, isn't it, Bromsgrove?
Yeah, but you've got pockets of deprivation that
Okay.
obviously get overlooked.
Yeah.
Like, nobody ever notices them unless you're on the ground. I mean, my manager that got me the job, he put me wide to this, and he was like, look, there's specific areas that are high on the IMD index, and that they're deprived. They are deprived areas. Coming from Birmingham myself, I didn't vision them to be as deprived as what they was.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I come from Birmingham and I'm like, okay, so this is deprived. I've been to some deprived
areas, yeah.
But I think he was talking in terms of funding and stuff like that. Like, there was just nothing for him to do. So yeah, going back to that question, that they wouldn't be engaging.
And they want to, as you say, they want to make music, and you know they have dreams and aspirations. So to go and put them in a hub, no disrespect, that's just got Xbox, and you know they want to actually do something that can help progress them and help them evolve as a young person and into whatever career path they want to go down.
I mean, they do have like careers and stuff like that there, you know, CV building and stuff like that that can give them, that can help them build resumes and stuff for their. I suppose it's hard if you're looking at it from a big angle, right? I think it's always been a problem in the world is equity. You know, each according to their need. Yeah. Everybody has a different need, and in order to meet every individual need of every individual,
they're all day.
It's going to be time consuming, you know, staffing costs, resources, etc.
And they change their mind a lot as well, don't they? One day they want to sort of go into music, then they want to be a builder, then they want to be an artist. They do change their mind. So it's very hard to keep them focused on one path.
On what it is.
You've got to let them experience different, have a little dabble in everything and see what it is that they like, don't
I mean, the music was youth-led. That they decided they wanted to do that. When I first started doing detached work, I went out onto the streets and stuff, and I started engaging with these young people. That it was them that come to me, and they was like, oh yeah, they were showing us all the music. So it started off just in the park, and they were showing us the raps and that they'd done. So then I was like, okay, then maybe I can get a music mentor in, you know, we can use the hub, they let us use the building there to do the music workshops. So yeah, it was literally led by them, and it still is led by them. Obviously, we do programs and stuff like that about, okay, we're going to do this today, we're going to learn about, obviously, creative writing sessions, whatever sessions. Kieran kind of takes over that bit, where I'll just facilitate the youth work, and this is where we're engaging all the conversations with the young people. To be honest with you, since one of our young people has kind of took off, you know, he's got his own YouTube channel and stuff like that. I've had a lot of interest from the young people over there.
I bet they've bombarded you, haven't they, with it?
Because obviously we was putting it out there at first, you know, trying to do music, but some of the cool kids over there didn't understand like what sort of music it was that I was doing. I think they thought that we was getting the guitar
going to do country.
Yeah. So now obviously they can see some of the young people that are obviously doing their music spoken word and that, and they're like, oh, well, nobody explained this to us. And we was like, wow, we did tell you to come along and that, do you know what I mean? So at the minute it is kind of hard because of COVID regulations, because obviously I am going to end up getting messages like, oh, can I come to music and da 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 da, do you know what I mean? But because I've got my core group, it's easier for me because obviously they're all they're a social bubble in themselves.
You can focus on them. You know, you have to be invested, don't you? You can't just have different young people every week. You need to be invested in that young person. That helps their progression and their state of mind as well.
It does help only having a small group because you can guide a smaller group.
Yeah.
When you've got a larger group, you know, you've got that equity and equality and making sure everybody gets the right opportunities and stuff like that. But when you've got a smaller group, they're easier to get over to Birmingham to go to the studio for one, because obviously we have to come on the train and stuff, and you've got to do all your risk assessments and stuff. So a small group's a lot more easier to manage, and obviously, like I said, these young people they've got complex needs. Yeah. So they're not ones that, you know, that they don't like authority.
They don't listen to rules at the best of times, never mind when it's talking about 2 metre distance and wear masks. You've got to really have that
respect. You've got to have that two-way relationship with them where they respect you and you respect them as well.
And I'm assuming you've built that with them over time.
Yeah, well, I've been there for 2.5 years now, so yeah, I've managed to build that rapport up with them. Yeah, I'd say I can see them going far from it, to be honest with you, and I think they're just glad. I mean, one of the young people actually said that he wouldn't have found this opportunity anywhere else. You know, and it's good for them to actually see that they've actually created this opportunity. I've just facilitated it. Yeah. So I'm just a facilitator.
Yeah, but they've created it themselves. Yeah. And as you say, it's youth-led, so you've not said, we're going here and we're going there and we've got to do this. It's what do you want to do?
Yeah.
So coming to Birmingham, I don't know there's of any sort of youth facilities that do that. that fund music programs and fund youth workers to sort of take them to wherever they want to go. Why do you think that is? Why is there a lack of help and lack of youth provisions in Birmingham?
Well, the funding got stripped back in 2010. I think over 70% of funding got took out of the youth sector. Yeah, so there's a lot of youth workers that lost their jobs. This is partly why I think a lot of organisations still hold on to that JNC, because now we're finding, because there's less youth workers available, that one youth worker that is in that post will have to do many roles. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to be qualified enough to know how to monitor, evaluate, deliver, you know, and engage with the young people and stuff as well. So it's become a lot harder. Obviously, it is funding.
Yeah.
I like detached youth work because you're going out into their territory, you're going into their environment, and obviously, like all youth work should be, it's voluntary participation. You know, I'm not an authority figure. They don't have to engage with me if they don't want to. But when you're going out into their environment, you know, a lot of them are smoking cannabis and stuff. I'll tell them, I'm not here to police you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. But I will have a conversation with you about the impacts of smoking cannabis. I will educate you around drugs and stuff like that. So it's just that relationship. But I think detached is going to become more prominent now because obviously buildings are closing down.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Funding, like I said, funding was very few and far between before pre-COVID.
Yeah, as I say, there was
Now
very
we're going
few
into a
youth clubs,
recession.
wasn't there?
Yeah.
Very few youth clubs.
Now we're getting into a recession. It's going to be even worse finding money, but obviously mental health of young people has risen. Mental health of adults has risen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I would like to see more funding made available, obviously, for young people that are dealing with post-COVID. Do you know what I mean? And stuff like that.
And that's what I don't get, you know, it's very obvious that the youth crime is increasing. It's very obvious.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, you know, the West Midlands police know that, you know, the government know that, officials know that. But then why they're not doing anything, this is what I don't get, why are you not doing anything about it? You can see that since you stripped the funding back 10 years ago, that there's been a massive problem since that. So why would they not reconsider about putting funding back into it to say, let's see if it decreases the youth crime?
Well, yeah, even the police will tell you themselves, you can't arrest your way out of this situation with knife crime. You can't arrest. It's not just a police matter.
It's deeply embedded.
Of course it is, yeah. Of course it is. These young people just have got nowhere else to go. From my perspective, social media's got a massive, massive part to play in youth violence. You know, and I know this from one of my own young people who's done music. Now I know their background.
Yeah.
And their background isn't how they're portrayed in this song, right? So they've done a song. Next thing you know, they've got ops from over the other side of the county that are like, they've seen this video, now they want to get involved in the like, what you saying, having a shank for, and da da da. Do you know what I mean? So it's then you've got it's perpetuating this postcode violence.
Yeah, postcode war.
Like yeah, postcode wars. And these postcode wars go on even in the poshes of areas.
I can imagine, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So people expect it to be in the deprived areas and even in posh areas. It's just like a thing that they just seem to do. So yeah, I'd say social media, but you know, there's no safeguarding on social media.
No.
Obviously, it's a parent's prerogative to monitor their use, but you know yourself, teenagers, once they're at school and stuff like that. I've been reading a lot now. There's been a new report that's been released from Russell Webster around contextual safeguarding, which is really interesting, especially from a detached youth work perspective, because contextual safeguarding is about safeguarding young people where there is no adults. So, like, say for instance, parks, when they're out in parks, social media platforms. Obviously, schools don't come under that because they come under the safeguarding regulations there. But there will be areas, environments in young people's lives where they're not safeguarded by any adults.
And that's where sort of it slips through the net, doesn't it? Then it slips into them to be that person because they're not being safeguarded. You know, at school they may be, at home they may be to some extent.
Yeah.
But that one moment they're not. They can do whatever they want and they can read whatever they want and get up to whatever they want with no one to tell them otherwise.
This is where social media plays, you know, Snapchat and stuff like that. None of it's monitored. It's not safeguarded. They're on their own platform. They're singing about whatever they want, you know. I see a lot of people, not even young people, adults, you know, that are selling cannabis over Snapchat. It's now a platform where you can sell drugs.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, obviously on Instagram as well. People have Instagram pages selling weed. How times have changed.
And it's not safeguarded again. Do you know what I mean? There is no one to come and say, actually, this content is
Yeah.
Well, they say they do, but from what I'm seeing, obviously, and from a young person's perspective, especially with county lines and stuff like that, that's so prominent at the moment, and exploitation. It's so easy for young people to like, oh, okay then, so he's got this 4 black cherry pie, it's over that man. So, you know, I've known kids get on a train and that just go into the flavour chasing, do you know what I mean? So they'll go to the other side of the city or into another town and, you know, they don't even know who it is that they're buying this.
And look how dangerous that is for them as well. And with postcode wars going on, they could go into an area and they're like, what are you doing here? You're not even from this area. And they could put themselves potentially in a lot of danger.
We have a lot of Longbridge young people, Rubery, coming in through to Bromsgrove. Obviously, they're seeing it as rich pickings. Yeah. You know, coming and robbing the young people there. And a lot of the young people in Bromsgrove, like I said, they're a far cry from what we would be used to growing up in Birmingham. That they're not as, I'd say, not as city kids.
Yeah, see, we come from council estates, we're from the heart of a council estate.
Yeah, we are city kids where they've been brought up in a more rural area. So, and then you've got kids that are coming in from a different area, obviously bringing knives and stuff like that. So then the kids in Bromsgrove are feeling the need to protect themselves. Before you know it, you've got gang warfare going on in leafy Bromsgrove. Do you know what I mean? It's just so easy to happen anywhere.
You know, there's the argument that when someone carries a knife, they may be carrying the knife to protect themselves. But then there's also the statistic that says 90% of young people that are stabbed with their own knife.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with another young person that I know is 19. He's been involved in gang violence and stuff. He's got knives. He's got scars all over the back of his head.
Wow.
And you know, I've asked that question. You know, at what point did that knife stop you from getting them scars? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It didn't.
It don't protect you. It doesn't. I mean, have self-defence classes and you know, things like that. That's protection. Carrying a weapon is not a form of protection in my eyes.
I'm a massive advocate for young people to get involved into martial arts and stuff. Doing martial arts myself, I know the self-confidence that you get from being able to think strategically.
It's not just physical, is it? It's mental as well, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is, And knowing that if you was ever put into that predicament, you've got the confidence to get yourself out of it. I don't advocate for violence whatsoever, but I do advocate for self-defence.
That's a whole different thing though, isn't it?
Yeah, and if a lot more young people was trained in martial arts or self-defence classes, would they still feel a need to carry a knife, or would they be equipped with the fact, well, I don't need to carry a knife because I know how to fight.
I know how to disarm somebody that has got a knife. I mean, when we done judo, you know, remember we had it.
Yeah, Krav Maga, judo. There is a lot of martial arts out there that. But I wouldn't advise them, obviously, if there's a knife there and you can get out, run.
Yeah. You know don't try and disarm somebody with a knife. It's very stupid thing to
I wouldn't advocate for it myself, but, you know, just having that, being equipped with that skill is enough.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, most people that do put themselves into positive activities, because that is where the change needs to happen.
Yeah.
It is positive activities. Positive activities is the answer. Not just the answer. Trauma as well. A lot of these young people, you know, I'm constantly having this conversation with people about PTSD and trauma and stuff like that. I know that it would be, I know how much money it would cost, you know, for these young people to deal with that. But, you know, a lot of these young people aren't focusing in the curriculum at school, doing the curriculum and stuff like that, because they have got trauma outside of school, and, you know, their anxiety's going, their minds
they don't care about algebra and X plus Y equals whatever. You know, they've got a lot going on inside their brains.
Yeah. How can you apply yourself to something when you're thinking, I might be leaving here and I'm waiting for someone to come and pick me up from school and I could be having it off, or do you know what I mean?
Or they've watched the parents have it off in the morning, or, you know, you don't know what they've seen before they've gone into school themselves.
No, of course not. No, you don't know what's going on at home for some of these young people. Do you know what I mean? They might see the school as their safest place. Sometimes it is their safest place where they're getting a hot meal and stuff like that. But from what I've noticed, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm a mentor as well, and some of the schools that I go into are very, very happy with the fact that we've got. The schools are very happy that they have mentors that come in. Do you know what I mean? They come into the schools, and we come into the schools to speak to young people about that emotional stuff. So I'd say, dealing with the trauma and positive activities and stuff. And to be honest with you, they kind of go hand in hand. Because if a young person is focusing on positive activities and doing something of a physical, mental, that helps emotionally and spiritually, healing can occur through that.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody wants to heal through counselling or therapy.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
There's different ways that you can
Artwork
heal.
is therapy,
Yeah.
dancing is therapy, music is therapy, and a lot of young people that I do the music with, they rap about their lives, and you can see it's therapeutic to them.
And the more they do it, the more it
out.
comes out. Yeah, it's literally taking all your feelings from inside of you and putting them onto paper.
Yeah.
Whereas sitting there for young people talking to counsellors, they're just kind of like, what's the point? I don't want to sit here and talk to someone that I don't know about my feelings.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have as a young person that was traumatised.
Not everybody knows it. And this is the thing with young people, is they don't identify with their emotions. They know that there's emotions going on in there, and you've got hormones and stuff like that to take into account as well, like physiological problems that might be going on for them at the time. But they don't know what's going on for them. It's down to the adult to be able to notice that. Do you know what I mean? And this is where lived experience helps, because you can ID with that
straight away, you know, yeah.
You can
And especially if
ID
you've
with
been
it.
that young person, you just know straight why they're feeling
yeah.
a certain way. And, you know, if they're reacting, you just know that there's a reason why they may be reacting.
Yeah. So you do find that a lot of these young people will engage through music, or, you know, I think the massive thing for me, especially with youth violence, the problem is pride. Yeah. It is pride, you know. A lot of young people they don't want to humble themselves and say sorry, or, you know, they don't want to admit when they're wrong, you know. And I think it's just a kid thing, you know. It's no one in particular.
No, it's a kid thing, yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to, you know. And I say to them all the time, you know, communication makes effective. Do you know what I mean? Just be able to communicate. You know, I don't appreciate that. You know, you've offended me by doing that. You know, could you not do that again, please? Do you know what I mean? I said, because that's when you give people the opportunity then to go away and think about their actions and think, okay, then maybe I shouldn't have done that. You know,
it's a case of responding rather than reacting. So
Yeah.
don't react to it, respond to it and communicate it.
Yeah. And you notice the difference.
So you're still outreach right now? You're still going out now?
Yes, I still do outreach now. I go out 2-3 days a week. We're going to the Asda spot, because that's where we know they are now.
So you literally just go there and just go into Asda and just stand and just have a chat with them?
Conversations with them, yeah, about, you know, what they've been doing, how they are, you know, have they been to school, you know, just basically just having conversations with them about their day and stuff. A lot of young people just don't get asked, how are you, you know. But,
you all right, yeah. Have you
yeah.
eaten? Just
Yeah.
little things like that.
Yeah.
You're going into schools at the moment still with your knife crime training?
Yeah. So I do still go into schools, do my mentoring and the knife crime training. Obviously the schools do recognise how important it is to still have young people, to still have trainers going into the school to deliver to young people about decision making, you know, the impacts of decisions and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Especially at the time now that mental health is...
Yeah, especially at the moment as well.
Yeah. So I'm glad that the schools recognise how important it is for us to continue that work, to be honest.
And obviously there is, you know, there's many aspects of sort of helping a young person to heal. But do you think at the moment youth workers are the way forward? You know, because there's no help from anywhere else. Teachers, you know, teachers just teach the curriculum, don't they? Unless
Teachers
a particular
aren't
school,
skilled.
unless you go to a particular behavioural school, it's completely different.
Yeah.
But it's in mainstream school, they're just there just to do the job, aren't they?
Yeah.
Literally just come in, teach the kid what you need to teach them, and then go. So
Yeah.
the kids don't really have anybody else other than youth workers, do they?
No. I mean, I do take that back. I don't say that teachers aren't skilled, because obviously it's an individual thing. Anybody can be skilled at that, but that's not what they get paid for. You know, they get paid for teaching the curriculum, and that's that.
Yeah.
I do feel for teachers at the minute, because they probably are getting, you know, they're having to clean the classroom. You know, these kids that you know have been out of education, haven't been working at home and stuff like that for however long.
The distractions just
So I should imagine they are under a lot of pressure also to be able to still teach a class and engage with young people and try and deal with them emotional needs and stuff. So youth work, obviously being a youth worker, I advocate for youth work, because again, we're just that neutral person. We are just there for the young person.
Yeah, and it's not a case of being biased because you're a youth worker. It is a case of if youth workers aren't doing it, who is doing it? Who is going out to Asda car park to check that they're all right? No one is, are they?
The police. The
And they
police
don't really
do
like the
go
police,
out.
do they? They don't really
No.
welcome the police with
No,
open,
they
open
don't.
arms, I'm
No,
guessing.
no.
And go, yeah, Mr. PC, plod, I'm okay, thank you. Have a year.
Well, the police even see, to be honest with you, that they're not doing anything wrong now.
Yeah.
They're not, do you know what I mean? So it's not really a criminal matter, do you know what I mean? So then the police get sick of going out there, because they're like, you know, it's kids, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, but, you know, as a youth worker, all I can do is engage with them there. All I can do is, you know, informally educate them on obviously the risks and that they've got in there. But, you know, if you're looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for instance, shelter is a basic need.
Yeah.
And that's all some of them have been asking for me over there. We just need shelter. They don't even want much. They don't even want big buildings. They're just like, look, can we just have a hut or something?
Well, it's cold out there, isn't it? You know, they are going to go out and they're going to freeze out there.
Yeah.
They just want somewhere that's just a bit warm, a bit toasty for them to go and sit in.
Yeah.
So isn't a lot to ask for.
All they're doing is it's what primitive instincts really. You know, you do need shelter in order to feel secure, and they're seeking that out, and obviously they feel secure as that.
That's where they feel secure. Maybe not so much on the roof skateboarding on the edges, but
on the top. But obviously, when it's raining, it is shelter, and it is somewhere for them to meet together. And obviously, with a lot of gangs and stuff that have been going into Bromsgrove, and that they feel safe there, that these gangs don't know.
They won't find us here. So it is.
So safety.
It's just a shame that they have to go to Asda, isn't it? And they haven't just got a youth hub that they can just. You just think it'd be just standard, wouldn't you? There's just a youth hub where they can go and chill.
Yeah. So again, young people are very, very resilient in knowing what it is that they need, and they will meet their own needs. But it's for communities, professionals, it's for all of us really to be meeting the needs of young people. We've all got a duty of care when it comes to young people, and making sure that their needs are met. And in this state of affairs at the minute with COVID, you know, it's really hard to meet their needs.
Of course. Well, at least you're trying anyway. That's the main thing. We'll leave that there. Thank you very much for coming on here. Coming up next, our next topic is about homelessness. So do tune in.